Okay, so here we are, guys. We're in the we've logged into Canvas and we're looking at today's agenda in the announcements section. And I'm recording this screencast so that everybody knows how to get to work on this without feeling like they just have a ton of stuff to read. But if you ever get lost, you can always go back and read those instructions. So here, what we're going to do is we've already done the do now. We're coming down here to the agenda. We're going to click on the My Place assignment. And that's going to open up this tab right here. So in My Place, I'm going to put this video right after these steps when I'm done with it. But here are all the steps. And I'm just going to I'm going to let you watch me go through all of these steps. To save time, we're going to skip reading step number 1, the story about place and imagery by Jennifer New. But later when you're writing, you might want to come back and read this. We're going to skip down to step 3 where we open Google Drive and find the My Place Essays folder. It's going to look a little different on my screen, but when I go to Google Drive, I've got My Drive and Shared With Me. Now, if you've given me your email address, Shared With Me should have a folder that's named My Place Essays. If I were you, I'd click the star button right next to the My Place Essays, but then I'd also drag My Place to My Drive, like this. I'm going to cancel that. So if you don't see that, I probably don't have your email address correct because you probably didn't enter it correctly on that particular document, and you might want to email it to me right now so I can fix that. So if I don't have your email address, I can't share this folder with you. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So now that you know that you need to make sure that if you don't see My Place, send me your email address and I will make sure it's shared with you. Okay, so I'm in Google Drive and I'm in the My Place folder. Now the next step is to click the Create button and write each of the 5 sentences down. Okay, that's enough. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to click the red Create button. I'm going to create a document. I'm going to create and share. And this way it's automatically shared with the teacher and your fellow students. First thing we do whenever we create a document is rename it. We will always rename it with our own name and the name of the assignment. Eric, did you hear what I had to say for Leonard there? Okay, just watch on Eric's screen. Eric and My Place. Boom. Now, when other people go looking for my essay, they only have to see that it's my name and that which assignment it is. So I'm going to be a good boy and type my name, the class, the code, which is 1304 for this class, as I'd make this video, the teacher, which just so happens to be myself, and the date, the beautiful Valentine's Day, 2013. Now, the name of the assignment, My Place Essay. So later I'm going to come back with a creative title. And I'm going to put it right there. But for right now, I'm just going to style it so that it looks like a title. Big, bold, and centered. I'll replace this later. When I hit return, it goes back to normal text and I'm ready to start writing. So I'm going to write the 5 sentences. Taste, sight, smell, touch, sound. Okay? Now, just so that I know that these are headers as I organize my writing, I'm going to make these heading number 3. There. I'm going to delete these later once I reorganize and get my writing done. But I'm going to think about the tastes for my special place. Now for a My Place essay, I need something else up here, just to guide my thinking. I'll delete it later, but my focus is a particular place. The creek, where? At my grandparents' when I was a boy. Okay. And when I think about taste, I'm going to use a bullet list here just because I like to stay really organized. I remember, let's see, at the creek, what tastes do I have? Well, hopefully not too many because it was just a tiny little muddy creek. But I do remember the mineral taste of the water. I remember the Nutty Bar that I stole off the top of the fridge. And so forth. I'm going to open a new tab here and skip, hopefully, if I can pick the right one, down to one I've already completed. So that's the wrong example. Let's pick this one. Hopefully this one works. That's the wrong example. Let me just go real fast back over. And I'm going to find this right document. My Place. Yep. I'm going to find mine. There it is. That's the one I'm looking for. You've done your imagery activity should start to look a little bit like this document, if this is the right one and it loads anytime soon. Okay, so I've got touch, I've got taste, I've got smell, sight, sound. Let me point out what I've done to make all these colors happen. So these are in a little bit different order. So in touch, I've got the feel of the tall grass. I've got the cool water, slick moss, pinch of a crawdad claw, so forth and so on. What I want to do after I filled out each of the 5 senses with different things that I recognize about my special place, the creek at my grandparents' house, is to come through and look for themes, okay? So the tall grass, I'm going to highlight with the highlight tool green. And I'm going to look for other things that talk about like the plants or the grass around the bank. Well, the slick moss was growing in the water, but that's a plant and it's green, so I'll make that green too. And the sharp tang of a stalk of grass, I tasted that when I chewed on a piece of grass. And then the pungent aroma of rotting leaves in the water under the bridge. Yeah, I remember that smell, and it's not grass, but grasses and leaves are similar, so I'll make that green too. And then I talk about how I see the moss flowing in the current underwater. So those are my green things from all my senses. I didn't have a sound of anything about the plants, but maybe your story does. I repeated this idea with another theme. So the next idea was cool water flowing over my bare feet. Since water is blue, I decided it'd be fun to make it blue too. Then I went looking for other things like that. And even within touch, I felt like I had the idea of these rocks in the water itself. So I'm basically describing the properties of the creek itself. In taste, I had the minerals in the creek water. So like how the water tasted had to do with the really microscopic minerals buried inside, floating inside the water. And then way down here in sound, I could hear the sound of the water as it flowed over the rocks. So here are all the things that have to do with water. Now I'm going to skip ahead. I took all the green things and I copied and pasted them together. This is what I ended up with. The feel of the tall grass near the bank, the slick moss growing on a rock in the creek, the sharp tang of a stalk of grass as I chew it to a pulp, the pungent aroma of rotting leaves in the water under the bridge, the waving moss flowing in the current underwater. And it sounds really poetic, but all I did was focus on each of my senses, and after I got done with 5 for each one, I kind of cheated here, I only did 3, but I did 5 for touch. I went through and I sorted them out and I color-coded them so I could organize them more easily. And after I organized them, it sounds like a poem. But I don't want it to sound like a poem. That's where editing is going to come in. However, it's much more clear to me now that I've done some pre-writing that how I can organize this into a paragraph. So that's the next step. And that is how you get started on this imagery exercise, taking you all the way through step 4. Now it's up to you to take all your coding, and maybe you want to use 1s and 2s, not greens and blues, but take all the things labeled 1 and use them to draft a paragraph about theme. Same thing with all your 2s, 3s, and so forth. You may notice some details need to be left out, and that's okay. In fact, it's good if you do leave some behind because you're sacrificing the better ideas for the best ideas. Now take a look at your separate paragraphs and how they fit together after you've done some editing. Talk with a partner about your place and let them read your paragraphs. You could do this in Google Docs really easily. What order should they go in? Do you need an intro? How about a conclusion? What about a transition or a bridging language to get from one paragraph to the next? And that should get you down to step 7. You guys, the whole point of this is for us to develop imagery and tone and to recognize that we are in charge of our author's choice in what to include and what to leave out. We're going to leave these sorts of comments for each other when we peer edit later. That does it for this tutorial.